On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
If you're listening to this, it means something. It means that you're here to grow.
Yeah.
So raise your standard and take route B, take the harder route. Guys accelerate real quickly when they start to become aware of why they think the way they do and why they react with emotions the way they do. I've learned this massively in my personal relationships and my professional relationships, is that everything that we want is on the other side of having a hard conversation. These little things that they're not little, but you might not know that subconsciously they can control your life. Yeah. And without being aware of it, they will continue to control your life, and you call it fate.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, Gathering the Kings podcast, coming to you here today with another king on the stage. My man, Pete Taylor. How we doing?
Good, Chaz. Good to be here, mate.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you being here all the way across the ocean, right?
We are. I am in London, or just outside of London.
Love it, man. Pete, tell us what kind of business that you got, brother.
I run a business for guys, right? So it's called Heroic Man. We help men untwist their minds, reboot their brains, their bodies, and their backbone. Ultimately, it's getting guys to have more out of life.
Yeah, I love that. They'll getting more out of their, what do you say, brain, body, and backbone?
Backbone. Yeah, backbone's probably the biggest part of it, but it's the
Yeah.
biggest one that a lot of guys tend to lack.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Do you know, I can speak to this because this was a massive thing for me, and I lacked this for a long time. Is that in my like late teens, early 20s, I got the body right. The body was like the easiest thing for me to fix. Gym, eating good, I got the body thing right, and then the brain thing I got right. Like intellectually, it was quite easy to learn new skills, read, and employ coaches and mentors that would give me wisdom. The backbone part was something that I didn't realize I was lacking until my early 30s, when I had a moment where I was like, I am literally a boy in a man's body.
Hmm.
I am still not fully grown up here. I'm in my early 30s. There is so much that's going right, but there's so much that's going wrong.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, this like courageous like young man wasn't really there, like truly, and the backbone element was lacking. I was brought up by my mum, didn't have like strong masculine role models around me, and that was a part of that. Played a part in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so there's a lot to dive in here. I think that, of course, not our whole audience is men, but I think even for the ladies listening here today, I think that this could be great information because potentially they're going to be married or are married or they're going to have sons. And like you and me, raised by single moms, it sounds like, where we've got that in common, we're going to be able to press in. But everything that you just said was okay, so I was I was a boy trapped in a man's body and you had a lot going right for you, but not a lot going right. What were some of those indicators in your early 30s where you thought maybe you had it together, but then you realized, oh shoot, maybe I'm not quite there yet? What were some of those indicators?
I think we're straight in with the breaking point. This was a couple of years ago. I live just outside of London. I live in the countryside, and it's beautiful here. I got a nice house and got some nice land, and literally on my doorstep, there's thousands of acres of woodland. And as a young boy, this is what I always wanted.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember the day I was walking through the woods with my dog, the dog that I've always wanted. And I'd taken this route. I always walked the same route, taken this route hundreds of times. And I was thinking about the things that I had. I was like, I've got the car. I've got money in my bank. I've built a business. I've got a team of 20 people. We're winning awards. We've just bought a building. We've got tenants in the building. I've got a beautiful wife. Like I've got everything that I wanted in my early 20s. Yet I feel incredibly lost.
Hmm.
I'm not overly happy. I feel very isolated, very lonely. And that there really was a point. It was like a switching point for me. I'm like, there's something up here. There's something that needs to change
Yeah.
for me to have all those like hedonistic, materialistic things that I'd always wanted,
Right.
yet be in pretty bad place mentally.
Okay. I think that breaking point, I want to just press into that because there's people listening right now that maybe haven't experienced that yet, and some that maybe that have. But what I heard you say is that you had achieved all the things that we say are success, right? The land, the car, the house, even a beautiful wife. And in essence, you had made it, but on the inside, you didn't feel like you had. And so, how does one know that they're after the wrong thing, or not necessarily the wrong thing? Not that those things are wrong, but they're not they're not what we call fulfillment, right? Those things maybe bring a little bit of happiness here and there, but it's not full fulfillment. How do I know the difference between something that I'm after, you said in your early 20s versus something I really should be after, which was for you in your 30s?
This, as woo woo as this sounds, my soul and my gut was telling me for a long time.
Yeah,
Like it was there. I was just refusing to listen to it, or just like
because it's easier to go for the cars and stuff, or what? Why do you
yeah,
think that
that
was?
that exactly that, because it's hard. It would have been really, really freaking hard to go, "Do you know what? The business that I am building is wrong. My business partner isn't the right partner for me.
Mm,
I don't have boundaries, and I am saying yes too much. Actually, my model wife probably isn't the right woman for me."
wow,
Like, they are hard, like, realizations, and and yeah, I think that's it. It's like the easier choice is just to keep going,
yeah,
is just to keep doing, and not facing what's in front of you if you really hold a mirror up.
yeah,
And that ultimately, if you don't come to face it, I think, and a lot of guys go through this, is that we'll keep it on our shoulders, we'll keep it in our chest, we'll keep it
right,
in our heads, and then one day, we either explode
right.
or we stay silent.
Yeah, yeah, and then eventually the silent explodes, whether it's just an outwardly explosion or not. Okay. The process here of finding this, it said the kind of that voice was always there. Are there any practicals that the listener can, maybe they felt this way, maybe they haven't yet, but we need to get them on the right track. What are some things they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, do you know, like, I was actually, so since the age, a really, really young age of like 15, 16, I got into personal development. When I got into personal development at a young age, I hadn't realized it was personal development.
Sure.
I just found a way for me to grow. And then, so throughout all my late teens and all through my 20s, I was really heavily into self development, personal development as a consumer. Now I get to be on the other side, and I get to help other guys
Right.
grow. But I think, like, I'd learn so many tools and tactics, and as like as basic as this tactic is, the art of just like verbalizing something and writing it down, and talking about what's going on in your head. It doesn't necessarily have to be to your spouse. It could be to another group, which is why, like, I'm really proud of what we've grown with. Like, Heroic Man is like a group of conscious guys that want to see you grow, that will hold a space for you, will not keep you in your self pity or self wallow, will push you forward with an action plan. That's incredibly powerful. And so, like, trying to find that, not necessarily like the guys down the pub that it's drinking and it's surface level football scores. That stuff is cool and it's funny, and we all need a little bit of that. But actually, just like the higher level people that will hold a space for you, and if you to verbalize some stuff, is really powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, within Gathering the Kings, we have a lot of the same language that we're working with business owners on, and so I can already relate to the story that you're telling here. I think this is really powerful. You used the word a couple minutes ago, isolation, and a lot of business owners who might be listening, or guys specifically, whether they're a business owner or not, they have this description of isolation that you've given, but sometimes they don't realize it until they're like deep into isolation because you described this, and my story is the same way, where you just start doing the thing, right? I've been involved with personal development for a long time, like you, so I'm creating a strong mindset. I'm just gonna just put it on my shoulders. I'll carry it. Don't worry. I don't need to talk to my spouse because I don't want to stress her. I can't talk to my buddies because they don't have a business. They don't know what I'm dealing with. So you just pack it on and you just handle your business, and that I think it's where a lot of listeners are. But eventually, like you said, that gets too heavy or they explode. I guess the question herein is how do they know? Or because when you say isolation or that I'm alone, it feels like that's soft or that I'm weak, right?
Yeah,
Like,
here's
talk to that person.
yeah, here's the thing. Like, a lot of guys will pride themselves on being a lone wolf.
Right.
I, like, subconsciously for quite a while, and then consciously prided myself on being a lone wolf.
Yeah.
Like, it's, like, I can handle this. I don't need anyone else to do this for me. I'm the freaking man. I will do this. I will get it done. I will prove, not just to myself, but to others that I'll get it done.
Yeah.
But what happens to the lone wolf? He dies in the woods on his own. And, what I've soon come to learn is that, and we see it now in, like, the strongest teams in the world, like the Navy SEALs. They're part of a team.
Yeah.
That is a powerful thing for a man to be able to go, "Do you know what? I'm gonna." It's not a part of it is dropping the ego, but part of it's like, "I'm gonna be part of a team that's gonna help me grow."
Yeah.
And it's a powerful team, and if you can't find it, you create it.
I'm hearing you say 2 things. You said kind of the ego and then the power of a team, but the I guess the recognition before you can even get to those 2 things is the need to grow, which you kinda mentioned there. So how does one think about wanting to grow? I mean, you're talking to, business owners right now as the audience, and so of course they wanna grow, of course, right? But you and I think when we talk about growth, it's a little something different. So what does growth first mean to you or some of the people that you're helping so that they can get to that place where there's no ego, they wanna be around other people that are gonna be make them better, that type of thing?
It's it's doing hard shit. Growing is ultimately doing and typically it's doing the things that we are subconsciously or consciously avoiding. For example, if there's a conversation that you need to have with your business partner and you've been putting this off for weeks,
Right.
there lies the growth. If there's a conversation that you need to have with your wife or your husband that you've been putting off for weeks and months or even days, there lies the growth.
Yeah.
And even like it's I see a lot of guys, it's like productive procrastination. And like especially us, like business owners, it's like
Yeah.
we're doing stuff. It's
Busy.
I check in with some of the guys, like, Pete, I made the new website, and we spent weeks on it. We got all the copyright and da 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 da. Da. And I'm like, great. How many sales do you get in from that website?
Haven't
Like,
launched it yet, Pete.
no, yeah, it's not ready yet. It's not. Oh right, okay. So you just spent the last 4 or 5 weeks doing that, and you could have just gone knocked on some doors and spoken to some people face to face, which is the harder thing, but you would have
Right.
made more money with it. And it's like it's the hard things and most of the time, consciously, we know,
Mm.
it's the work that needs to be done, but we avoid it. And there lies the growth.
Yeah, I think that you set yourself up just, great there because it is the harder thing. But then, like you said, when you're around other people that are not just giving you space to be able to share, which feels woo, but then also holding you accountable, like you said, and pressing you forward with a plan. Talk about that because this is really powerful. I mean, this is one of the 13 principles in Think and Grow Rich, the mastermind. Like when you put yourself around other people, like Gathering the Kings for business owners or like men for you, like this is what we do, you and me. Like this is what we help people do. This is like the powerful
Mm.
tool. Talk about this because I think most people hear, oh yeah, like a group of people, that's good, accountability. They don't realize the depth of the power of this.
It's incredible. The power it can be exponential,
That's right.
and it's here's like the one sentence. What one man can do, another man can do. And it's as simple as that. And when you're in a group of guys, like your mastermind, for example, there's a group of guys and a group of girls in there as well. And
Yep.
and you see like he's just achieved something in his business. You're like, hang on a minute. If John can do that, I can do that.
Right.
John, what's the strategy that you oh, okay. All right, great. And then I see it time and time again. It doesn't have to be like a strategic move in the business. It might just be a mindset shift. It might just be like,
That's right.
oh, I set a boundary and I didn't know what boundaries were before I joined this mastermind, and
Yeah.
and it and it's like it's changed my life. And so it's like what one man can do, so can another.
Yeah, that's super powerful. You're talking about perspective and the power of changing perspective by putting yourself around other people. Let's talk about that inside of your program here because in essence that's what you're doing. You're bringing in an isolated man. He's got bigger needs, bigger problems, bigger goals even, but sometimes he doesn't recognize those things on his own or recognize the solution to those things until his perspective changes. What are some of those main like one or two or three main perspective changes that men have once they join your program?
So we work on we have like three different P's, three different like environmental P's. The P for your physical, so you're eating, you're moving, you're sleeping. It's it's sometimes we know this. We know that we should eat well and we should sleep well and we should move our bodies. And like that alone can be huge perspective shift for a guy going through that and having a body transformation, keeping fit, and then you build momentum from that. And then the
Okay.
second P is psychological, which is the most interesting one to me. This is you being able to like unpack and understand your emotions, and
Yeah.
then begin to understand like the inner darkness. Because I can tell you, and this is from my own experience, just not just with myself, but when you begin to understand that, you unlock decades of latent potential, and it's like the 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 brake goes down, the accelerator and that's it. It's guys accelerate real quickly when they start to become aware of why they think the way they do and why they react with emotions the way they do.
Yeah. I'm hearing you kinda you've used the word conscious a couple times. There's obviously a conscious competent and then eventually an unconscious competent. Let talk about that for a second because your perspective change is helps them understand or be self-aware, to be conscious of. But then eventually what you're talking about is becoming this person, this elite version of yourself that actually happens without thinking, but that has to be that's unconscious or subconscious.
Yeah.
How does one get there?
It starts with awareness. Like if we think about something, if we think about it, it's on a scale of like 0 to 100, and like 100, this thing is controlling you, and you might not know it's controlling you, but you've been going in a certain direction all your life. Like a big one for a lot of people is like internal resistance around finances, like a financial thermostat. All right, they get to a certain level, and then for some reason or another, they just bounce back down again. It's up and down, up and down. It's the same freaking level.
Mhm.
And when you can raise awareness to the reasons as to why that might be happening, and and it might well be digging into some existing trauma, that just the awareness can take it from a like a level 90 controlling your life down to like a level 50. And it's like, this thing's coming up again. And I know why this comes up because of this trauma that happened 6 years ago, and that's had an effect on me ever since because my business partner stole all the money in the
Right,
bank. And because he stole all the money, now I keep it really close to my chest, and I don't do anything with it.
right.
These little things that they're not little, but you might not know that subconsciously they can control your life,
Yeah.
and without being aware of it, they will can continue to control your life, and you call it fate.
Yeah. That last piece there that you gave, it's like a little bit of a it's a snarky comment, but it's true. And so you've obviously run into guys who are like, "Well, I guess this is just meant to be."
Yeah, and it's sad. It's a quote by Carl Jung, is that your subconscious will control your conscious, and you'll go your whole life, and you'll call it fate. And it sadly it can be incredibly true, unless you are willing to do the hard work, which just goes back to what we talked about earlier. It's freaking uncomfortable. Some of the conversations and the places you go are uncomfortable, and you can be exposed, which again for a guy with an ego can be hard to be exposed. But and I've learned this. My ego has been well in the way many a times, like running the Awakened Man and running Heroic Man, because I look at it, I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm the leader. I can't really go like fully tell the guys what's going on emotionally. But what I have learned actually just over the last year is that the more that I go into doing the harder work in front of all the guys, the more that they respect me
Yeah.
as a leader,
Yeah.
and then I grow, and then I become a better leader because of it.
Yeah, this is powerful. Obviously, you're doing it in an environment where other people are like you. How talking to a business owner who's listening, going, "Okay, well, does that mean I'm supposed to go be vulnerable and share everything with all my employees?" I'm gonna say no, but I
No.
love where you're going with this. So how would they do that if they're not supposed to share everything? How who can they go to or how do they do that inside their own business, I guess is what I'm asking for.
Yeah, do you know, I can speak to this. So I had a team of 20 people. So when I left my previous business, it was a bricks and mortar company, so construction, architecture, interiors, and I was quite open with what was going on, but I wasn't the whole way there, which was why I began to feel so isolated and quite lonely because the people I spent the most time with were my team.
Sure.
And I felt that I couldn't truly tell them everything because they might then lose respect for me as a leader and think, Shit,
Yeah.
if Pete hasn't got it together and he's running the show,
Right.
what's going to go? Well, like, oh, I'm not so confident about staying here,
Exactly.
right? Maybe I'll start looking elsewhere. So, like, I think my biggest advice there is to find another group of, and it'd be like preferably business owners that can relate to the problems, but not a group where it's just like a bitching and a moaning session, and it's just, oh, we're going to dwell in the victimhood here that because
Right.
this is hard.
Yeah.
It's like a group that will push you forward and progress you. It like the ROI on that is exponential. But I'm also a fan of being pretty open with the team. And in like, if we're going through a struggling time financially, it's like, hey guys, look, this is the way the numbers are looking, and this is why they're looking this way. And I think it's important for you guys to be aware. And here's the plan in place. What do you guys think? You got anything to add to that plan? Do you want to? Because I think you find in those moments, you find who's really there for the long win,
Yeah.
and and the guys and the girls in your team that are weak probably don't belong there, and maybe they will get up and go,
Yeah.
and it's probably a good thing.
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Yeah, I love what you said there because I think you're spot on with you're nervous to share almost the exact language that I've used previously myself and with plenty of other business owners is, well, I don't want to share everything because then they might look elsewhere, like you said. But it's probably those people who aren't super bought into you or your vision, and partially because you're not being open with them, partially because they're probably not the right fit. And so there's a little bit of that hard thing that you talked about, like just doing the hard thing, which is making sure that all your people are meant to be there anyway, that should be there. And that makes us nervous because it's like, man, if these three people leave, then I now have to do something hard, which is replace them with the right people, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some practical stuff that you've done. I mean, you've done just a beautiful job here of setting us up as far as mindset shift and getting around people. I love what you're doing inside of your programs. For you, as you've built multiple businesses now, what's just been a good decision that you've made practically inside the business that you would just do over and over and over again? Something maybe that the listeners can go hit the repeat button on today.
Yeah, simplify. That's it. Look at everything. Look at everything in the business and see what you can eliminate. Like, I like the if we imagine a mountain, and the peak of the mountain is the pinnacle of our business, and to be able to climb that, and when we're like at the bottom of that mountain or a quarter way up the mountain, and it's hard when we've got all these bags around us. We've got all these shovels, we've got all these headlights, we've got all these bags on top of us. It is heavy. And I like the cull to climb. So what can you cull? It might be team members, that might be people, right? But what else is there that's like, is there like the offer or the product that just makes no money, but we're still doing it anyway? Or it's just adds confusion. And it's like looking at everything throughout the business, starting with the things that make you the most profit. And it's like, well, what can we eliminate that doesn't? And what can we increase that does? So it's simplification.
Yeah, I think that you gave a very simple answer around around that, which is great. what would be the first step? I mean, so you take a look at everything and eliminate, but what am I looking for? Like things that don't belong, things that aren't performing.
I mean, I'd look at where like the big like where's the biggest bottleneck in the business? Or, like where's the most challenging like event, project, asset in the business? Maybe it's like, do you know what? We're just not getting enough leads coming in. Maybe it's a lead flow issue. Then I'd be looking at like the top of the funnel and like where are the leads actually coming in? And like and I see this with a lot of like because the probably 90% of the guys that come through our programs are entrepreneurs and are business owners. So I get to have insights into what they're doing.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they're just doing way too freaking much. Like they're on like every platform and they're doing every form of like lead generation and prospect generation, and I'm like, "God, I'm exhausted just looking at that."
Yeah.
Look, and just, like, you talking to me about what you're doing, and it's well, let's just find the ones that are most effective. Find the place, and you might have to do some testing. If you haven't got data around it, then spend, 6 weeks, 8 weeks gathering data around every outlet and go, "Alright, do you know what? Outlet number 1, where we just go out and meet people for coffee, is really harnessing actual tangible results
Right.
where we're selling more.
Yep.
Let's just do more. Let's just really like master that and make that into like an actual client acquisition system.
Yeah.
So I know that if I go out for 5 coffees, then we can get 3 deals
Right.
and really, really like optimizing that. And that's where I'd look. I'd look at where the bottleneck is.
Yeah. I love the example that you gave there of client acquisition system. Most people are operating with just effort. Like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. Without dialing in ever enough to say, well, what is really working? And then stripping all the things away to say, okay, now I'm going to build a system around this. And I see this, I'm sure you see the same thing, but just so many business owners get stuck in just kind of the doing where there's never any system because they're trying to do too much. And I think we've all been guilty of it. So it's not like, Peter and I are sitting here today going, well, never had that problem because I'm sure we both have and still always are trying to eliminate stuff. Would you agree?
Always, just like all these problems I'm talking about, I've had them or still have them,
That's right.
right? It's just and sometimes it's just like it's just levels to this. It's like if we can just get to the next level in revenue, but there's still problems. So
That's right.
it's all part of the parcel.
What about a bad decision? Something that you did that was just almost detrimental? Tell us about that hour.
Bad decisions. I've made plenty of bad hiring decisions.
Okay.
Like hiring on, oh, I like them. I just got a feeling
Yeah.
about them. I like them. I think, like, I've made bad decisions doing that have cost me exponentially afterwards because I still like them and I haven't fired them.
Right.
And that particularly if you are a new business owner and you're not used to the hiring and the firing, it's hard. It's really, really difficult, especially if when, the people that you're hiring have got family and they've got bills to pay and they're not performing and you give them another chance, then you give them another chance. And probably what I've really learned is not to give too many chances. Like, deep down if they're gonna perform or not, and
Right.
you need to make the decision quickly. It's that old adage of hire slow, fire fast has rung true with me on my hiring decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the repercussion of that, go into that for a little bit. I mean, you made the wrong hire, you held on to them for too long, but what did that do as far as the negative impact to your business?
Massive. Like I can think of a number of them, but one in particular, I reckon that cost me close to 500,000 just in the time that I kept her on board, which was probably 5 months longer than it should have been. Also, the time that we put into her, and then the lack of sales because of the time that went into her.
Right.
Right, and, not only was it like a revenue thing that we lost, it was also the impact on the rest of the team where the majority of the team, especially the guys that have been there for longer, were like, "Why is she still here? Like, what's going on? Like, why is Pete keeping her?" So it actually affected my leadership, and it affected the trust in my leadership. So there's like these multiple facets that you only really see afterwards.
Yeah.
It's only after the event you're like, "Oh god, that's probably damaged my leadership quite some. I should
Right.
have made the decision way earlier."
Yeah, you said several things in there that I'm sure some of the listeners have experienced. I know I have where if the people on my team recognize that this person should be gone before I do, like problem number 1.
Yeah, for sure.
Problem number 2 is that if I haven't created an environment where even the people that should be here, the ones that do recognize that she or whoever that was should be gone, can't come to me and say, "Bro, what are you doing?" That's problem number 2. It's like, well, now I have good people who are being sabotaged by bad people, and I don't even know that it's happening because of my lack of leadership, really, or lack of ability to allow people to share, you
Yeah.
know? There's a lot of awareness. It goes back to our very first, conversation here around self-awareness and being able to lead other people through leading ourselves, right?
100%. You have to be in the arena. Like if you're sat in the crowd watching the Spartans in the arena, you're not gonna learn anywhere near as much as you being in the fight.
Drop down in there, see what happens. Okay, so you've got someone listening here right now who's like, "All right, Pete, I've been doing this thing alone. I know that I need people around me. I picked up a couple things here from you today as far as how to make some good decisions, some hiring decisions I can stay away from. Is this person leaving this podcast going, how do I take action in joining your group? Or is this person taking action around self-development? Give this person some clear like 1, 2, 3 as soon as they get done listening here today.
Yeah, sure. So number one, if you want to find out about more about what we do, go to heroicman.com and you can check out our podcast and our programs. The second thing I would do is if that's not right for you, I would genuinely try and find a group. Try and find a mastermind or just try and find a good group of guys. I'm actually a fan of joining things like boxing clubs and jiu-jitsu clubs and MMA and that sort of thing, like because you get to be around other people that are growing,
Yeah.
and that's important,
Yeah.
right? And I think like the third thing I would do is I would learn the ability to have the difficult conversations. Because typically in life, and I've learnt this massively in my personal relationships and my professional relationships, is that everything that we want is on the other side of having a hard conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You've mentioned a couple of those different ways. I'm going to formulate my last question in a little bit different way for you, since you've mentioned these difficult conversations in a couple of different ways here today. If you could scroll back time and talk to the younger Pete, what's that difficult conversation that you would have with him?
You know, this is an interesting question because the younger Pete, the journey that I have been through has built the man that I am today, and I'm proud of the man I am today. I'm incredibly proud of my achievements. I've got a beautiful son, and I've got an amazing business. And so, if I hadn't been through everything that I've been through, then I'd be on a different journey. I think that if I was to say one thing to him and have a difficult conversation with him, it will be stop caring about what other people think.
Mm,
And that be that. And just because look, that I've absolutely had that throughout so much of my life is worrying too much about what others think. Whether that's my business partner or colleague or one of my team members,
yeah,
or whether that's a coach, a mentor, or my partner, whatever that looks like, or people I don't even know, right?
yeah,
Like the internet, just worried about what other people think, and then that preventing me from maybe stepping into other areas of growth.
yeah. You just kind of mentioned it that it kept you from maybe other areas of growth. But for the person listening right now that's like, oh, I know that I think about what other people think of me and I care about what they think of me too much, like maybe the younger Pete. How how are they formulating that right now? Like how what's it keeping them from? I mean, because they know it, they're sitting in it, but they're like, yeah, I know, but I don't know, Pete. What's really
I
the
think,
negativity here that I'm holding on to?
yeah, like deep down, it's normally going after something that we want. So for me, in my previous business, I should have left earlier than I did, and I didn't because I was worried about what other people were going to say.
Sure.
And then and even now, like I'm building a personal brand, but it's only been the last probably less than a year that I've actually put myself out on the internet. But for probably a year prior to that, I didn't do it because I was like, oh yeah, have I got enough to say? Maybe I just need to do some more work before I can go out and I can speak pretty
Right.
openly and freely about the way I think.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like worrying about and really, like we're all on our own journey and we're all going to die, which is the brutal truth. And that could be in a month, or it could be in 10 years, or it could be 50 years.
That's right.
And after that event, it won't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of hesitation. I think that you've kind of connected or correlated, I relate as well, but the overthinking or the, attached to the thinking about what other people think of me or caring what other people think about me to the person who's overthinking, right? That the guy that you described earlier here in the show was like, I've spent the last 4 or 5 weeks on, putting all the funnel together and you're like, "Yeah, but have you launched the ads yet? Yeah. Do you have people coming to it yet? Have you got any sales yet? Have you knocked on any doors yet? Have you taken any phone calls yet?" And that guy, he's consistently thinking about what not only what other people think, but also just overthinking in general.
Yeah.
Is the antidote
Yeah.
action to the younger Pete? What do you say?
I'm smart, mate, and it sounds like you're a smart dude too. And the thing is with smart dudes like us is that we can overthink because we'll overanalyze and we'll try and outsmart everything
Right.
and go, well, there's probably I can probably make that a little bit better, and I can outthink this.
Yeah.
There, like a mentor taught me. He was like, Pete, just be more dumb. You're too smart. Be dumber. He's like the guys that I see that are very, very successful and get ahead in life is that they don't overthink things, they just do.
Yeah.
And typically when my overthinking comes in, I know that I call this it's my inner enemy. I know that it's the voice in my head that's trying to keep me small. It's the inner enemy that's trying to keep me safe, keep me in my comfort zone. And every time I try and overthink or put a barrier in the way or an internal objection as to the reason why I shouldn't do that,
Yeah.
it's the inner enemy keeping me small. And that inner enemy, like he will always be there. I've learned this. Like he will always be there. He's never going to go. But it's you being able to overcome the inner enemy, that inner voice in your head that's trying to keep you small,
Yeah.
and you be able to go, nope. And you can give it a name. Like, it might you might call it the inner enemy, or you might actually call it a name. So no, John, not today, buddy. I am getting out of bed at 6 in the morning, even though I don't want to, and I'm going to go and train.
Yeah.
No, John, not today, buddy. I'm not going to go and eat that last cookie that I know I want, and John's telling me to eat, but I know that I will regret that. And it's those sorts of things.
Yeah. To put a little encouragement for the listener here, that inner voice gets quieter and quieter. He never goes away.
Never goes away.
But you just learn how to, smooth kick him in the face when he pops up. Um, and he doesn't come up
Yeah.
as often typically when you kick him in the face.
No, it doesn't. But this is, and again, previous mentor taught me this. And when he said this to me, I'm like, oh, that is, yeah, I love that. And he was like, the current version of you needs to die for the next version of you to come alive.
Yeah.
And the current version of you, which includes that inner enemy, that inner voice, he doesn't want to die. He's been around for so long. He's got all of his habits in place.
Mhm.
He will do everything in his power to keep you where you are,
That's right.
right? And you got to kill him. And it's gonna take everything you got to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that visual of you wrestling you to the death, right? It's either
Yeah.
one of you is going to win, either the person that you want to become or the person who you still are, to your point. It's that inner wrestle, and one will win because you both can't have it, right?
No, correct.
Love it. Okay, well, you gave us the websites. We'll put those in the show notes as well. You have given us just all sorts of mindset here today. Calm presence. I hope that the listener didn't just glance over some of just the absolute gold that you gave here us today. Any last parting thoughts here, Pete? I mean, you're talking to men right now, possibly some ladies, but you're talking to men and you got one last thing to share with them. What do you give to them?
Raise your standard. We live in a world right now where it's so easy to just live in our comfort zones. It's incredibly easy to take the easy route, to watch TV or to not to make the call or to scroll Instagram or to not have the hard conversation. It's very, very easy. Like, but you as a listener, if you're listening to this, it means something. It means that you're here to grow.
Yeah.
So raise your standard and take route B, take the harder route.
Pete, you've been incredible. You're an incredible mind, but also the simplistic version of Pete obviously is the one winning. So I want to take heed to that and pass that along to the listener here as well. Thanks for being here. Blessing to you, all the men that you're touching through your programs. I hope that the listener takes you up and goes to those websites. We'll put them again in the show notes so they can easily find you. You've been a blessing to the audience here today. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.